Life on the water means being constantly exposed to the sun. Whether it's directly on the boat or on our skin, it takes its toll. In some ways, it's good. It's what drives the weather and causes wind, and it gives us power through our solar panels. But I don't know about you, I like some shade in the summertime. But shade is one of those things you might take for granted while living on shore. Shade can be super hard to come by on a boat, so whenever we get a chance to add some, we try to do it right. So this week I want to go ahead and start working on building the form for our hardtop Dodger, and I'm going to be using plywood and 1x2 strips to basically build the form and get the shape that we want. I have already gone ahead and designed the hardtop in CAD, so I already have these big prints that are to scale and should hopefully help in the design process and make sure that I get my form curved the way that we want, and also the width and length of the hardtop the way that we want as well. So I have everything I need, and I'm gonna go ahead and get started cutting out some plywood pieces and then getting the 1x2 strips all put together and start building this form. So I'm hoping I can get done this week. We'll see. I've already noticed I have an issue between these two plans that I made. This is the center line, and you can see it lines up pretty close, and the top right along there, that's the profile view. If you were looking from the helm to the back side, and you would see kind of how it arches over top of the cabin. That is that view, and then this big sheet, which I think is hard to see in the camera with the tiny lines, but this is for the top, how I'll cut out the foam, which means that I think this piece actually needs to be bigger than the curved piece because the length along the curve is actually longer than a straight line. So if I made the foam this size, it would actually be a lot shorter than that curve would be, if that makes sense. So I am really happy with how these have turned out so far. I've cut out 4 pieces for my form. I have sanded them all down to basically make them all identical, and it has turned out really good. Happy with it, it's gone smoothly. My theory on how this is working has gone really well, so I'm happy with that so far. So the next step is going to be cut out these 1x2s I have sitting on the floor and start putting this thing together. So that turned out pretty well, I think. I'm definitely not a framer by profession, as you can tell by just some of the stuff I did like in the very beginning and even as I went along. I feel like I got better, but I don't know. That was like my first one, framing it up. And then here I was like, okay, now I gotta get these pieces in. And how do I do that with these pieces already in the way? So then I kind of moved them around. Then I realized to give it structure, I probably should have put a piece on the outside. And then I got here to the end and I kind of got smart and I started just doubling up. I think that's the better way to do it. And then in the middle, we just have our braces, and then kind of the same thing on this side, just figuring it out as I go and then getting down to here where it actually kind of like makes more sense. My issue right now is it's a little bit too narrow. It only is 30, let's see. It is only 32 and 7/8, and I actually need 36. So I'm looking at a couple of inches of overhang, which might not be too big of a deal because the foam structure will probably support itself on that little bit of overhang when it's like molding. Then my other issue is I'm a little bit out of square by 3/4 of an inch, and I don't think that's going to be too big of an issue because the squareness of this is not going to have any effect on the squareness of the actual hardtop itself. This is just the form. So this being out of square is only going to affect the shape of the hardtop and not the actual, like, I don't even know what you would call it, but like the perimeter of it. It's not going to make the actual hardtop itself out of square because I'm going to be going directly off of the plan that I made in CAD so that it will be square, but the shape will just be like a little bit different. But 3/4 of an inch in this very slight bit of a curve, I don't think you're really even going to notice. So I am not too worried about it. I think it went together pretty well. I just need to make sure that the foam is going to be able to support itself hanging over the edge just a little bit. But I don't think that's going to be too big of a deal because it'll be mainly supported in the whole body of it. It's just going to have that little bit left over on the edge that I don't think is going to be too big of a deal. So yeah, turned out really well, and it went pretty fast. And it didn't take me that long to build this. So I'm going to be putting some plastic on this soon. I went and bought a PVC style, like, I don't even know what you would call it, but it's kind of like it's just a PVC sheet, and it's really thin, so it can conform to the curve here, and then I can lay down my foam and my fiberglass right on top of that, and then it should be good to go. And I'm not going to actually be glassing to the PVC sheet. I'll be glassing to the top of the foam as it's like facing me, the upward side of it, which would actually be the inward side of the hardtop, and that's really confusing. So you'll just have to see when I do that. So yeah, that is done, and I think it's about time to go inside and call it quits for the night. So I will come back and put some PVC on this, and then we'll be actually building the hardtop, which is awesome. This has been pretty cool, pretty interesting. My first time making a form like this, and it's gone pretty well. I just hope it turns out good. If it doesn't turn out good, I'm gonna be so bummed, but I think it's gonna turn out pretty good. It looks good just sitting here. So I'm pretty happy with it so far.